I know. I know it's been a while, but I have been super uber busy taking care of a lot of things. I mean, like the list just runs on like it's Santa's list. After I'm lying. I'm still busy, but I didn't really know like how to return for a longest because I enjoyed the other shows. I enjoyed doing them, but I also became passionate about a lot of other things. And Written Ralph suggested to share one of the things I am really interested in, which is true crime. I'm a female, that should be kind of expected. But once I get my bearings on how to kind of just do my own show, hopefully I will improve. But in the meantime, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story from... No, I'm kidding. You should watch Mr. Ballin for that. I absolutely love his shows. I actually do work out to his shows. Like, that's my goal. Like, while I'm watching, I'm like, wow, that sounded crazy. Why did they go in there? Like, I'm just doing my thing. But if you're interested in mystery, murder, and Monday, I'm kidding, I totally messed it up. But anyway, I love Bailey too, but I am not gonna be like, but I will be doing my show on Mondays, not because of Bailey, but primarily because I had the show before doing Cadmaniac Mondays. So let's get started. So here's my thing. If you like to learn about different mysteries or crimes, you can just hit that like button to subscribe. You can leave me comments, but most importantly, I do need the commentary because I do need feedback. But let's get started with my new series that is called 52 Lockup, which is 52 crimes, 52 weeks. Make sure you guys enjoy. Okay, so we're going to start with one of the first cases that fascinates me the most. It's the death of 15-year-old Seth Jackson in Florida. So Seth lived in Summerfield, Florida with his two brothers and his parents, often described as like friendly, outgoing, funny, and popular. When he entered into high school, Seth and Amber Wright began to date when they were like 14. Now, Seth's parents describe Amber as like, she seemed nice in the beginning, but over time she kind of gave them the impression that she was manipulative. And like most normal teenagers, this is back in 2011, they're posting on their social media accounts. And, Seth would make posts about, like on March 14th, he's like chilling in the house with Amber and Kyle, bored as fuck. Kyle is actually Amber's stepbrother, Kyle Hooper. We'll get back to him soon. Now, after this post, their social media posts began to kind of drastically change, which demonstrated what was going on in their relationship. The teenage relationship became toxic and even ended finally when Amber Wright had cheated on Seth with Michael Bargo, who was actually 18 years old. These ages are kind of important. So after Seth discovered that she had cheated on him, he became angry, and he eventually challenged Michael Bargo, who is 18, to a fight. And according to the multiple resources, Seth had won the fight, which I presume for most average 18-year-old boys, this would be embarrassing. Now, their fight spewed out all over the place. Amber and Seth were on their social media accounts just constantly just posting incendiary comments for other people to see. They were just constantly like going at each other, and this was a very public thing. This was your new online of like what's going on. So like even on March 23rd, Amber had posted like basically, fuck this, I spoke up, we done, bro, hit me up in another lifetime. Seth wrote on March 28th, single now, hit me up now that I don't have a trick girlfriend now, basically insinuating about Amber. Now, March 30th, Seth decides to make a post that's addressing Amber, where he's like, fuck Amber, you wanted it like I said. My song to you is, ha ha ha, you did this to yourself. And then later on, he posts on about have her Mike, faggo, fuckboy. A female friend ends up responding to Seth going, Bargo? And he's like, yeah, that, whatever he had wrote there, fill in slurs. He goes, he wouldn't fight me. Now, this is leading into that fight between them, right? So now on April 3rd, Amber posts, it feels so weird waking up with you not, basically beside me. So Seth responds like, oh, you're telling me. And then later on, he says, Amber, I'm done fighting with you. I'm hoping later on we can work this out. And Amber responds to Seth saying, just do me a favor, consider me dead to you. And then Mike Bargo decides to enter the conversation because I guess now he feels Seth thinks, oh, she's talking about him. So he's like, Seth, she was talking about me. So Seth gets pissed and he says, well, that's cool. Alyssa's my baby now. Now, this is important because Alyssa is actually the girlfriend of Amber Wright's stepbrother, Kyle Hooper. Kyle Hooper at the time, I believe, was about 16, 17. Actually, I believe he was the same age as Amber, maybe a year older, so he might have been like 15, 16. So these posts are like kind of going back and forth between until Seth's untimely demise on April 17th. Now, there are death threats now that are starting to increase. They're all threatening each other. They're fighting. And Michael Bargo tells Seth, like, I have a bullet with your name on it. Now, this is when the plan begins to set into motion, right? Because we're going to just have to take a few steps back and start talking about Michael Bargo. Michael Bargo at the time was 18 years old when he was dating 15-year-old Amber Wright. Now, he already had a history of being under the influence. And if you read the court case and you read in the subtext itself, it was stated that he had a hostile relationship with his mother. He was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 7. And for those of you who may not know, ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is a medical condition that affects a person's attention and self-control. I'm getting that from the website. I don't want to offend anyone who does actually have ADHD. So I'm basically kind of just summing it up. And just so you know, anyone who does have ADHD, don't associate them with just Michael Bargo. Everyone's different. Now, at the age of 7, he was already prescribed Ritalin, Concerta, Focalin, and Adderall, which sounds like a lot to prescribe a kid, especially for a long period of time to stimulate them. He had been found to be a danger to himself and others as he was getting older. He became angry when his parents had divorced. He was dealing with bullying as he was growing up because he actually is a small, kind of like thin dude, which may explain why he may have lost the fight to Seth. During this case, it was discovered that he had abnormal brain scan, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, and a complex seizure disorder. Now, side note, schizoaffective disorder is a combination of symptoms of schizophrenia and mood disorder, such as like depression or bipolar. There was mentions of that tried to give a little weight to support him was that he had a close, loving relationship with his sister Lauren, his paternal grandmother Virgie, and it seemed like I guess that was the closest he got to a healthy-ish relationship. None of that weighed anything on in regards to the case. So he has a history now of severe drug addiction as well, and he never received proper treatment for it. Now, one of the most interesting things that they use to describe him is he's actually a follower, not a leader. Unfortunately, around the time of the crime that we're going to skip over to in a second, he was not taking his medication. So the truth is Michael Bargo was a walking time bomb. Now, Amber is supposed to lure Seth over to the place. Kyle Hooper is still pissed at him that Seth slept with his girlfriend, Alyssa. And this is all supposed to occur at Ellie's house location. And then there's a Justin Soto who just joins in for whatever reason. Now, we're going to talk about the actual death in case. I just need some water. Now, Seth was originally hanging out with his friend. I think they went to the movies or something like that, and his mom was supposed to pick him up. But he ends up biking home. He receives a text message from Amber, and they were talking about, like, meeting up. Now, when Seth goes there, he's expecting to meet his ex-girlfriend at the trailer house or trailer home. And what he ends up meeting is 15-year-old Amber Wright, her 17-year-old then stepbrother Kyle Hooper, her new boyfriend, 18-year-old Michael Shane Bargo, 17-year-old Charlie Ellie, because that's where she lives, and 20-year-old Justin Soto. So Seth Jackson was severely beat, shot, and let me sum this up for you. Basically, they beat the crap out of him. He manages to escape. People see that there's a scuffle going on in front of one of the houses, but they kind of just like dismiss it as kids being kids. And then, out of nowhere, Justin Soto, who admitted to this, when Seth had escaped, he actually struck him with the axe handle, restrained him in order to bring him back into the house. Seth is now completely outnumbered, right? After they continued to beat him, Soto also assisted with this, where they all placed the victim into a bathtub where Bargo continued to beat the victim. He was trying to break his kneecaps. And the reason why they were so focused on breaking his kneecaps was because they wanted to stuff his body into a sleeping bag and it wouldn't fit. At some point, Michael Bargo realized that Seth was still alive, and then he shot him again in the bathtub. Eventually, they were successful in breaking his kneecaps, and then they folded him into a sleeping bag. I'm not done. He pulls out his teeth with pliers. After that, they take his body to the back of the trailer inside the sleeping bag, and then they hogtied him in the backyard and just have a fire pit. They're just like burning. They're like, oh, we're having a good old time, partying and drinking and having the time of their lives, until he is reduced to all the way into ashes. They take his ashes and then place it into paint cans. They later called James Haven, who claimed that he unknowingly drove the teenagers to a rock quarry where they threw Seth's remains into the water. Let that sink in for a minute. Now, here's my issue with James. James claims he unknowingly knew because he didn't know what the remains were and what they were throwing in the water. But the truth is, later on, he admitted that he heard the teens discussing this plan. The 40-year-old got uncomfortable and then walked out. That was it. That was his solution. Like, well, gee, they're talking about murder. I'm going to leave. So what ends up happening is the following day, Seth's mom reports him missing, and she knew he was supposed to meet up with the ex-girlfriend, Amber. Now, Amber's brother, Kyle, saw that there was a report about Jackson, and he starts telling his mom, like, hey, I think I witnessed the murder of Jackson. So he's trying to play this, like, card. His mother, poor mother, she goes and like, oh my God, we got to go to the police station. We got to do this. We got to, you got to tell them what you know. So now they're stuck at the police precinct. And now this is where the story really unfolds of what happens. Now, Kyle Hooper, he creates a story that basically Jackson wanted to speak with his sister Amber and states that he dislikes Seth because, Seth has supposedly put his hands on his sister. The brother eventually, like later on, admits that, yeah, he did hit Jackson over the head, which is supposedly how the whole thing started, right? Because he was supposed to get the first hit. Kyle's initial statement is that after he struck Jackson, he had pushed him into the kitchen of the trailer and then told him to get out. Then a couple of gunshots go off from Michael Bargo, who is now labeled as the full criminal, right? He's the shooter. And this is where it starts to kind of get interesting, right? Because Kyle is focusing on putting all the blame on Michael Hooper. Now, Michael Bargo, sorry. Amber was the next person to be interviewed by police officers. Now, her original statement was kind of like she's an innocent bystander. Her story was very consistent that Jack was being aggressive and, she finally decided to speak up for herself. And she states, oh yeah, my brother did strike him, because obviously like to protect me as his sister. She allegedly claims that she had told her friend Charlie, her girlfriend, to run upstairs into the bathroom out of fear. And then they ran into the room and they just heard noises, didn't know what was going on, and was in the bathroom the whole night. Like they didn't know nothing what was going on, supposedly, right? So when she awoke the following day, she claimed to have smelled pure bleach in the house, and that was all she had noticed. I know, I smell the bullshit too, I'm allergic to it. So Amber and Kyle, at some point when you're watching the police interviews, you see them actually discussing, well, if we do go to jail, basically I'll probably be out like when I'm fucking 20. They expected leniency because of their age, and they thought blaming Michael Bargo because he's older at 18 would shift the blame for them. Amber was trying very hard to play the female card of like, the devil made me do it, my boyfriend made me do it kind of thing. Now, Amber and Michael denied their sexual relationship with each other in the courts, even in their interviews, but eventually Jackson had broken up with Amber due to the fact that she was having sex with Michael. In fact, that's what this whole thing is about. So Amber, during her interview, she finally admits that she had sex a couple of times with Bargo, but she did it to aggravate Jackson on purpose after their breakup. But what was focused on social media's attention was to get his attention. She wanted Seth's attention, right? So apparently, unfortunately, during the trial, Kyle Hooper showed remorse, but Amber did not. And actually, when you see her, she's got like a smug look on her face, like she's very proud of what she's done, One of the most crucial pieces of evidence in the case was actually a text message she had sent to Jackson, which alerted him to the place. Sorry. Well, I kind of need to talk to you about us working things out. And this is what's sent to him Sunday, April 17, 2011 at 8:46 p.m. She sent out additional text messages requesting for him to call her. And it was very clear that Amber was aware of the fact that Seth wanted to go back out with her. He missed her, right? So during these exchanges of messages, out of 70 messages, I believe, Jackson eventually says, Amber, if you have me jumped, I will never forgive you. The time of day. So if I get jumped, say goodbye. April 17th, 8:56 p.m., right? Amber's reply even states that she promised he was not going to be jumped, but simply wanted to continue their relationship again. That's the crime. Like, holy, like, what were you doing at 15? Like, I mean, I was trying to get albums or, like, listen to music at Virgin Records, like, with the headphones, like, trying to figure out which album I was going to buy. Not this. Now, let's talk about the sentencing. So, Amber was sentenced to life without parole. Kyle Hooper, life without parole. Michael Bargo was sentenced to death. James Haven was sentenced as an accessory after the fact for up to, I believe, 30 years. Justin Soto took a plea deal just to avoid the death sentence. Him I have a personal issue with. So he has life in prison. And Charlie Ellie is the only person who... So she received life without parole, but her charge became lesser after a retrial for second-degree murder. She was working with the infamous Jose Baez. You would probably remember him from Casey Anthony. So she actually ended up being in prison for 9 out of the 10 years that she was assigned to be sentenced to. She's currently actually released at 27 years old. Seth's mother is actually aware of this, Sonia. She was angry, but she hasn't made any comments as far as, like, I know for what I could find online. But just as a little side extra fact, in regards to how she could just get out like that. So what Baez did was he filed an appeal in the federal court arguing, among other things, but arguing basically that, Ellie's original trial attorney, Jonathan Bull, had made several critical mistakes that deprived Ellie of her constitutional right to a fair trial, due process, right? In March, a federal judge ruled that Ellie received ineffective counsel because her trial attorney failed to object to portions of a law enforcement interrogation video used by prosecutors to convict her. Baez went on to say, this court denied her, the appellate court denied her, so we had to take it to the federal system for somebody to finally step up and say, wait a minute, this can't happen in the United States. People are entitled to due process. Her original lawyer, however, Jonathan Bull, did not comment, and apparently recently, from what I had found, he had been barred from practicing law in 2018. Now, this case is absolutely atrocious. This case left Seth's family not only just grieving for him, like you talk about parents who lost their kid, the two brothers that lost their brother. Amber and Kyle's mother loses both her kids to life sentencing. And she's also a nurse, by the way. And she did work like an awful lot. At least from what I could find about her online. Now we have James Haven's life absolutely wasted. Even though he's in his 40s, he's going to get out 30 years later. He's going to be in his 70s by the time he gets out. Justin Soto, same thing, life sentencing. It's just Michael Bargo, life sentencing. Well, death penalty. I think they're trying to get the death penalty fixed for him, which always fascinates me. But I'll get to my opinion afterwards. Although Charlie, she's the only person who actually is released on this crime. Still, being in prison changes you, even if you're just there for 9 years, nonetheless. All of this, over a love triangle? 15 years old, you're not fighting about your favorite bands, your movies, your aspirations. I don't know, hey mom and dad, they won't let me go to the party tonight. Anything else that seemed normal. Anything that seemed normal at all. I found it absolutely just amazing. And this case fascinates me just because of how young they are. Now, often recently what's been discovered is the fact that scientifically or psychologically, however you want to put it, your brain does not finish developing until around the age of 25 years old. Now, everyone knows that there's different levels of intellectuality, whether you're book smart, whether you're emotionally intelligent. There's a bunch of factors that go into it, right? There was an argument stating that, well, she's too young to really know, what she did. Here's the problem. This goes beyond premeditated murder. This is just, this is way too detailed. You're you did all that, but you couldn't do your homework? Really? Same amount of effort. One has a better outcome. It's insane to me when I look at this, because you look at the juvenile justice system, you see how there's so many changes, where you're looking at Miller versus Alabama. There's all this stuff that's out there, and the American juvenile justice system is trying very hard to demonstrate restorative justice, and yet here we are looking at a case like that, and you're eee. can we restore that kind of person? What would lead a teenager to think like this behavior is absolutely acceptable? What cases did she read that they thought, well, we're young, so we'll probably just get out like when we're 20 and then I'm going to have my whole life in front of me. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what were you thinking of? I remember thinking, before the internet had just kind of just came out. So like, YouTube and all that stuff wasn't there. It was like GeoCities and Juno. But I was just excited about the fact that the internet had even existed, that I could talk to people like through a computer. I was so fascinated with that. I thought I was so cool. I think I was one of the few friends like who actually had an email, and I told them like, this is the future. You guys don't know. And they all thought I was a nerd. Guess was wrong. But anyway, it's absolutely fascinating to kind of see like how this whole thing came together. It's like, this is a group decision. Now, here's my issue with Justin Soto. You are the oldest of the group. He is 20 years old. He has really no relation. Not that what they did to Seth is excusable, but there's really no relation to Seth whatsoever. He just joins in. Just to join in, at least from what I had found. Now, if I'm wrong, someone can feel free to like correct me in the comments. But that is absolutely mind-blowing. I can't remember at 20 if someone was like, hey, you want to like do this? Like, oh, that sounds illegal. I don't know. I don't want to be in jail for the rest of my life. Okay, come on. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. Like, there's just, the difference. Like, it takes, I believe it was Sonia Jackson who quoted this, and it's written in one of the cases. Sonia Jackson says that even a 2-year-old knows the difference between right and wrong, as well as if you're going to cause harm to someone. And I feel like that's such a strong statement because it is true. Even though you are mentally developing, you're kind of growing, you're not fully developed until you're 25. But as a teenager, mentally, you're actually psychologically challenging what is yourself as a person individually as to define who you are, separate of your parents, as well as the influences of your parents, which is why teenagers often can be so rebellious. But this goes beyond being rebellious. I think it is insane that Amber pushed very hard for like, oh, well, it was Michael who made me do that. Like, he's such a controlling boyfriend. Like, I couldn't do anything. Very quick to play that female card, which bothers me because I've known women who will have their asses handed to them by their boyfriends or their husbands, and they're scared to death to leave, or like, or they at the time were very scared to leave, and then yet here she is playing that card to the best of her ability to get away with murder. And it's just like, you are part of the problem for reason why women are scared to tell their stories, because you're lying. Then you have Kyle Hooper. All right, I get it. He slept with his girlfriend Alyssa, but honestly, it's not worth it. It is absolutely not worth it. And also, in hindsight, it's got to be a little scary for Alyssa, right? Because I don't know too much about her, obviously, because she's juvenile or whatever. But Kyle's reason for being involved was because of Alyssa, but like nothing happened to Alyssa. And it kind of makes me wonder if the police, and if they did not say anything to their mom, was something going to happen to Alyssa down the line? Because eventually then anger may have like recalculated itself like a GPS system, like, I think we're gonna go over here. So I think it's rather scary and interesting at the same time. I believe this case is the reason why there's like a statute stating that when it comes to juvenile crimes, you're not going to get a lenient sentencing or lenient charges. They're going to really sit down and dissect the crap out of this case to decide whether you deserve to have life in prison. In fact, the judge who had actually, I forgot their name right now, but the judge, when he had sentenced him to life, he said he hadn't done that in like over 30 years, and he does not take that sentence lightly. And it seemed like he felt like, well, this is the last card I got because this one seems appropriate. Sentence for life. Like, I mean, my God, be better, people. It's just, that is an intense case. Like, psychologically speaking, I get it. Maybe your mom's really busy, but your mom is a nurse. What were you kids doing? Like, how does your mind develop into like actually thinking that is personally like, that is acceptable, that is a-okay? And it's insane to me because I remember all the stuff I did when I was 15, and all I did was play hooky, and I was just like, yay, I'm gonna go see a movie. Maybe it's just different in Florida, maybe because I grew up in New York City, maybe that's what it is, but nonetheless, it's a very strange case to me, and it's sad because think very carefully. you are 15 years old. If you're not 15, you will be 15. Just think very carefully. And I hope by the way, if you're younger and you're watching this, you should be watching lighter stuff. But for anyone who's an adult, right? Go back to when you were 15 years old. Think about it real carefully. What you were doing, what you were so focused on. You're like, man, this is what I really want to do. This is what I don't want to do. Even if it was just going to prom, it doesn't matter, right? Think about it very carefully. You at 15, until the day you die, you are stuck in prison for the rest of your life. That's it. Like, you didn't even get the chance to like actually live life at all. And it's strange to me that none of that was ever like in their frame of mind. The frame of mind was always about, we have to aggravate Seth. We have to piss off Seth. We have to hurt Seth. How dare Seth get mad that I cheated on him? And it's just like the narcissism to a whole other different level. Narcissists will frequently believe that they will gaslight you. They will do things to aggravate you. They will do everything they can to manipulate you down to a whole other T. And it is such a sad, dark story that you're like, you ended not just Seth's life, but your life, all of your friends, except for Charlie, because she's the only one that's out right now. And then, okay, well, I'm not going to say nothing about James. He's 40 years old. Like, you should have known better. I also did read somewhere else that I believe James is the one that gave the gun to Michael, I believe. I just had to read up more on it. He actually gave him the gun. Yeah, like, stepfather of the year. Like, that backfired severely. And it's such a sad story because a chunk of people just had their lives completely disrupted because you made one fatal decision when all you had to do was leave each other alone. I mean, I guess my ending commentary is that people often get involved in things. I know it's easier to say when you're not involved in the situation and your emotions are high and you're thinking all this and this and this. But at the end of the day, we are all irrelevant to each other until we choose otherwise. Now, I know some people are going to be like, oh, but what about people that you work with or family? Again, you can still be highly irrelevant, but it's all about how you choose to interact with each other. At any given point, they could have just unfriended each other on social media. They could have just, I get they're in school, they couldn't avoid each other, but now you've lost everything. Was it really worth it? Because I'm personally not seeing that it is. But that is my first episode of 52 Lockup for 52 Crimes, 52 Weeks. Hope you guys had enjoyed it. If you want, please give me some feedback. I just want to know. This is kind of my first time doing it. I didn't realize how many people would be heavily interested in true crime until I started watching Mr. Ballin and Bailey, and then I believe Coffee Grindhouse. There's so many. I can only watch but so many on Netflix because they run out all the time. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Please feel free to give me some feedback, and hope you guys have a wonderful 2022. I know this is a way to start 2022 with some dark shit, right? I know. Welcome to Cadma. Whoop whoop!